because according to Heller, formation of a culture is related to awareness of a culture. It is not an essentialist account of culture that you can refer to some objective things. Rather, you need to provide an awareness to a person to have a culture. Again, awareness requires transmitters of a culture. Like, for instance, Homer and Mozart, who are couriers of some cultures. And hence, intervention of political agents is required here. So in this way, culture is being made rather than being discovered by some observer. Thus, Heller says that, in fact, Europe was fragmented. There was not such a thing as Europe as an identity. But modernity aggregated disparate elements and, in fact, created something like Europe. This difference in views can be seen, for instance, in Samir Amin's view on Eurocentrism, which is regarded as something within the discourse of modernity, as something perhaps is essential in European view. While Said, for instance, says Eurocentrism need to be appreciated as different from Western thought, because Eurocentrism appears when decentering of the West begins, and otherwise Western thinking can be considered in a situation that doesn't lead necessarily to a kind of Eurocentrism. These different views are there, but we know that when something as Eurocentrism is made or appeared in any account that you would like to say, but it is agreed upon that Eurocentrism is hegemonic when it is appeared. As for instance, Amin refers to that the West is best, according to Eurocentrism, or Sayed refers to the phrase that the West and the rest, because the other parts of the world are considered just the rest against the West. I'm not going to concentrate on or debate on the nature of Eurocentrism. What I just wanted to say so far is that Europe and Eurocentrism can be considered in different ways. What is important for me is to deal with knowledge from an epistemological standpoint in relation to Eurocentrism. What is the nature of knowledge? In epistemology, we deal with this question. According to modernity, there was a general answer to this question that includes these elements. Generality of knowledge. We consider knowledge as something general, not particular to any place, any culture. Even though you might say that Eurocentrism claims universality, but is a kind of particularity disguised in universality. But what cannot be denied is that what is explicit in modernity is that knowledge is general. Knowledge cannot be limited to some places. For instance, science and objectivity is one of the hallmarks of general view about the nature of knowledge. Or you can see generality in morality, for instance, as Kant refers to categorical imperative in morality. Categorical imperative is a general principle that everyone should consider it in order to be considered as a moral agent. So Kant cannot accept that morality could be local. Morality is based on general and universal principles. Otherwise, it is not morality. It might be something else. Also, rationality as an important concept in in modernity, rationality understood as something logical and universal. This content of modernity can be seen also in the reaction of postmodernity against or in front of modernity, according to which meta-narratives, as Lyotard refers to, meta-narratives are rejected, and he claims that modernity was under the influence of a meta-narrative or different meta-narratives. And they try to replace rationality by reasonability. While rationality is logical and universal, reasonability is practical and local. So postmodern thinkers, in criticizing modernity, refer to reasonability and provide space for locality. So this is the main theme in Eurocentrism, or in modernity in general, I would say, rather than Eurocentrism, that it deals with generality in knowledge and considers that knowledge should be understood in terms of some general principles and axioms. On the other hand, when Eurodecentrism emerges, we see that we are going to the other extreme point, to the point that knowledge is considered as culture dependent, because people understand that modernity talks about generality, and this does not provide any space for particular culture. Then Eurodecentrism is an endeavor to provide locality, and in that space talk about particular views in science, for instance, in this culture, in that realm of the world. In this way, there are two movements that support this view. One is sociology of knowledge, which provides explanations for knowledge from the background society, why some idea appeared and emerged in a particular culture rather than another one. The second movement in philosophy is social epistemology, which deals with social against social backgrounds of thoughts and knowledge. And they hold that the epistemic virtue of diversity should be understood, and diversity is important in providing new spaces for knowledge and thinking. Now we see that Eurocentrism, Eurodecentrism appears in different guises in different places of the world. For instance, Africocentrism is one of the reactions against Eurocentrism, and is a kind of Eurodecentrism. The strongest arguments against Eurocentrism have come from the Afrocentrics. Afrocentric theory merits strong support because of its call for a counter-hegemonic discourse to break the cultural and social domination of Eurocentricity on the lives of black and other people of color. Proponents of this theory contend that the construction of the new African identity and an interpretation of the world from an African psychological, spiritual, and cultural frame of reference are critical in ending the subordination of Africans in America by Anglo-American social and cultural structure. That is to say, they are looking for providing a psychology, a sociology peculiar to their cultural background. Another form is Islamism. Another form of Eurodecentrism might be called Islamism, not in its just political sense, but in a more general sense, that is trying to provide a kind of science based on Islamic views. Oh, 5 minutes. There are different sorts of Islamism, but I have no time. I just want to concentrate on one of the strong versions of this view that equates fact and value and considers science as cultural based. Western science is based on particular values, and Islamic science based on another type of values, and they are quite different. And this might be considered as a revolution in science, as Kuhn refers to it, and providing a new paradigm which is incommensurable with Western view. For instance, Fridtjof Schoen refers to profane science, to the Western science as profane science, and says that in seeking to pierce to its depth the mystery of the things that contain, namely space, time, matter, energy, forgets the mystery of the things that are contained. It tries to explain the quintessential properties of our bodies and the intimate functioning of our soul, but it does not know what intelligence and existence are. Consequently, seeing what its principles are, it cannot be otherwise than ignorant of what man is. He says that what is happening in the Western paradigm is not knowledge at all. It is a kind of ignorance. Also, Sayyid Hossein Nasr refers to the sacred science. And this is the aim of, this is a phrase, the aim of all the Islamic sciences is to show the unity and interrelatedness of all that exists, so that in contemplating the unity of the cosmos, man may be led to the unity of the divine principle, of which the unity of nature is the image. Also, Sardar, another figure in Islamic science, said that science is the pursuit, we should, let me read this altogether. A similar break is needed from the outthought of modern science. All pretends to the neutrality of science, along with the notion that science is the pursuit of some romantic truth, must now be abandoned. That is to say, science needs to be understood in terms of values and nothing else. And he recommends here that we need to refer to new axioms, new goals, new methodology, and new techniques. For instance, instead of techniques that provide torture of animals in the Western sciences. And Sardar says usually the concept of Tawheed is translated as unity of God, but it becomes an all-embracing value when this unity is asserted in the unity of humanity, unity of person and nature, and the unity of knowledge and value. Here Sardar sees Tawheed as a comprehensive concept that can provide a new thinking about everything, about relation of knowledge and value and many other things. While Dr. Tawakkul refers to Tabatabayi's point in Idrakat E'tibari, in which he tries to separate knowledge from value. But here we see that Tawheed requires that we provide integration between knowledge and value. I would like to refer to something like Tawheedic fallacy here. A fallacy based on Tawheedic view, which maintains that since God is one, then oneness governs everything. Oneness governs humanity, unity of person, culture, knowledge, and values. I think this is a fallacy, because we cannot say that because God is one, then we have just a glass to see everything in terms of oneness. As you see that in Islamic view, dyadic separation in the world is common. About, for instance, in the Quran, it is talked about different pairs as watch. While God is one, but you can see in the species different pairs. And this is not Tawheed. But this is not contradicted with Tawheed. Also, we have got a strange phrase from Mullah Sadra, who says that if there was not conflict in the world, if there was not disagreement and contradiction in the world, you cannot receive God's grace. لولا التضاد ما صح دوام الفيض عن المبدأ الجواد. So I think if we try to concentrate on Tawheed as a key element in providing Islamic science, we actually being entrapped trapped in this fantasy of Tawhid. Because I have no time, I just stop here, and I hope that there will be more time to discuss this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Noaparast. Actually, you raised really a very important point